Perfect. Welcome to this new video. In this one I will show you an interesting Windows feature named ghost files, okay? So basically what we are doing here is creating a temporary file. We use this file, we write some data inside it and all of this, and then using this flag on delete, when we close this file handle using the close handle function, the file is deleted, but before this we have created a section and a map to this section, and now we have this file in memory, but it's not already backed by a real file, a physical file in disk. Okay, so let's try to understand this in the code and with a simple proof of concept. Okay, perfect. So let's start. First of all, the first step, of course, is to create the temporary file. To create the file, we use the CreateFile function, and this function basically receives the name of the file, in this case ghost.bin, generic read and generic write, this no problem, and then we are creating this file. We are not opening. Remember, in this flag you can open the file instead of create this file, or combine both options to, if we cannot open this file because it's not already there, we can create the file. Okay, in this case, the most important part are these two combined flags from here, the attribute temporary and the file flag delete on close. Okay, basically what mean this? Perfect. So let's start. First of all, the first step, of course, is to create the temporary file. To create the file, we use the CreateFile function, and this function basically receives the name of the file, in this case ghost.bin, generic read and generic write, this no problem, and then we are creating this file. We are not opening. Remember, in this flag you can open the file instead of create this file, or combine both options to, if we cannot open this file because it's not already there, we can create the file. Okay, in this case, the most important part are these two combined flags from here, the attribute temporary and the file flag delete on close. Okay, basically what mean this? So if we check, for example, the official Microsoft documentation, give me a second. Let's try with this one from here. No, it's this from here. I search, give me a second, for the English version. Perfect. And basically the function, of course, creates or open a file and all of this. And if we search for the flags, we will see this file attribute constants. And here we can understand all the flags that you can set here. In this case, we are setting the attribute temporary. That basically means this, okay? Means the following thing: a file that is then used for temporary storage. Okay, so basically file system avoid writing data back to mass storage if sufficient cache memory is available. So in this case, because typically in applications deletes after the handle it's closed. Why they are saying this? Because usually a file attribute temporary it's combined with a file flag delete on close. As you can see, as you can guess for the name itself, what this means, the file is deleted on close. So now we receive a file handle. Okay, this function returns a handle to the created file, but when we use the close handle function with this handle as an attribute, the file is deleted because we have deleted on close flag active. Okay, perfect. So after this, we just write some data to the file. In this case, this is the host payload data. Okay, no problem. We write this data using the write file function, and then we start getting the file size. Okay, we get the file size, and we create a section from the file. So here we are using the CreateFileMapping function to create a section from that file. If we check for the documentation of this function, give me a second. Perfect. This one from here, we can see that create or opens named or unnamed file mapping object for a specified file. Okay. Usually, it's used, this type of function, it's used to create a file that it's not backed via physical memory in this. That is exactly what we are doing here. So basically, we are passing the handle to the file that is returned by the CreateFile function. Here in the attributes, we are setting a null, so it's not necessary any attribute, and then in this case it's read only because we just need to read the data that we have written here. Okay, so after this, the create file, the CreateFileMapping function is executed, and a new mapped file in memory is created. Okay, so then before we close the handle, we need to map the section in our process, okay, to get a view of the current file in our local process. Okay, to do this, we can just execute the map view of file. What receives this function? This function just needs the handle of the section. Remember, not the file, the section that we have just created here. We pass this handle from here, and then in this case we just need the read permissions. Okay, so we set a section handle, and then a permissions, we are asking for read permissions to this section. Okay, so after this, we can close the file handle, with the close handle function and the handle to this function. The result from this, it's basically that the file is automatically deleted in the disk, okay, in the physical disk of the user. But what happens if we try to get the content from the previous mapped section? So as you can guess, the content is already there in memory in a view that has been mapped by the mapped file from here. Okay, so basically we can keep accessing the memory of a file, the content of a file in memory if we have created a section and we have mapped this section with a view. We are creating a view of this mapped section. We will be able to read the original content of the file. Okay, so if we try to execute this code from here, let's wait a second. Okay, it's just building the exe. Let's wait a second. Perfect, and there is the result. Basically, here we have written the files. The section mapped of this file is at this address. You can check this address with System Informer or whatever you want. And this is the content that we have written after the file delete, because here it's the get char. Here we are reading the content, but here we are closing the handle. So if here we close the handle, all what you do after this close handle call will be after the file is physical deleted by the in the disk. Okay, so basically that's the way to create a ghost file. Okay, this ghost file name, it's not named by Microsoft, it's not an official name or official description for this technique, but it's just a way to get or keep the access to the content of a file even after being deleted. Okay, so perfect, that's all. Let's jump to the next video.